Hello class, we're on module 6, which is the skeletal muscles. And as you can see here, we're doing a audio recording because we ran out of time and we're kind of getting short-handed in the weeks we have left with the class. So I had to do the lecture here. There's really not that much to lecture on besides just a couple of basic terms. And it's all up to you guys to really memorize this. So I've included everything you have in this PowerPoint is what you have to memorize, nothing more, nothing less. So please, all the terms that you see, please commit to memory and use the Essential Anatomy app and whatever other sources you might want to use. But whatever techniques you use to memorize, please use those, but just start studying and keep studying for these next couple weeks before the exam. Don't procrastinate. It's very hard to know and memorize all those muscles in just a couple hours. So please just be doing it regularly throughout your day in the next couple weeks, and you'll do well on this exam. Okay, so we have some basic terms: the origin, insertion, and belly. The origin is the point at which a muscle's tendon attaches to a more stationary bone. A more stationary bone would be something like the clavicle or the spine, something that's not regularly moving a lot. The insertion is the point at which a muscle's tendon attaches to a way more movable bone. That'd be like your ulna or your radius or your femur, something like that. That is more movable. The belly is actually the part that actually contains all the muscle cells, and the tendon is just the stuff that's not the belly. That's the connection. So the belly and tendon is what the very biggest part of it, and then we get into like the endomysium, epimysium, but we already covered all that. One big thing I want you to mention is the muscles that are listed in bold, you'll have to memorize the origin and insertion of that muscle. So there's a couple of those, actually quite a few throughout this exam that you'll see are listed as bold. So for example, the sternocleidomastoid that we're going to cover in just a second, that one's one of the bold muscles. So you're going to want to know where it originates and where the insertion's at, and the same for all the rest of those. A couple of more terms that we have that we want to mention. I'm actually going to start reading this a little bit from the book. So when muscles work together to create the same movement, they're called synergists. If one muscle is more important than the others in creating that movement, that muscle is called the prime mover or agonist. In contrast, when a muscle works opposite of another, it's called an antagonist. The triceps brachii then is the antagonist of the biceps brachii. Okay, and the same for vice versa. So the last general principle that you really want. So we're going to look over levers before we start jumping right into the memorization. And levers can be found on page 172 and 173. I'm actually going to read from it right now, so if you don't want to look it up, I'll just read it from the book right here, and then maybe just the auditory reading of it might help you guys a little bit. So it says in 172, the last principle you need to understand is that muscles tend to work as levers in the body. Remember, a muscle can only contract. It cannot lengthen on its own. Thus, muscles pull, they cannot push. A muscle then creates a pull on a lever made out of bone. A lever consists of a rigid bar that rotates around a fixed point called the fulcrum. When a force or effort is applied, a weight or resistance is moved. There are actually 3 types of these levers, each of which has a different arrangement of the fulcrum, effort, and resistance. And on page 173, you'll get to see these. So there's 3 basic types of levers here. I don't have time to go through all of them, but please look over these. I'm going to include only one question on the exam about the levers. If you have any questions about these, I will get into it, but mainly we just want to cover is the muscles. So I'm probably going to use one question on the exam. So just look over this. This is page 173, 3 types of levers. Wrote them on the PowerPoint here. First class is like a seesaw, bicep curl, moving your head up and down. The fulcrum's in the middle, resistance and efforts on each side. Second class, resistance is between the efforts and fulcrum. It's kind of like a wheelbarrow and doing push-ups. And third class is like shoveling. And so it doesn't make any sense right now, probably, if you're just reading this without ever looking at the book. Please read page 172 and 173, and you'll understand this a lot better. So, time for memorization. This is the part where your effort is critical. Again, like I said at the beginning, you must understand the muscles, knowing where they are, where a lot of them where they originate and where they insert. This is all up to you guys. It's up to your effort to determine how good you will do on this exam. You do not procrastinate till the day before to study these, or you will do very, very bad. So use Essential Anatomy. It'll definitely help you guys. If you don't have that app, then maybe try to find something that's a little bit less expensive or something on the App Store, but just something that really covers it. And usually apps will work a lot better than this textbook will. So the major muscles of the head and face. All of these that are listed, as I said before, on the PowerPoint, you're going to want to be able to identify. And the one bold one at the sternocleidomastoid, you're actually going to want to find the origin and insertion for it. And a little side note here, for all the ones that are listed in bold, all the muscles that you see that are listed in bold throughout the rest of this PowerPoint, go on to the Essential Anatomy app and click whatever muscle that is. And on the side dialog box, you'll see that it says origin wherever it is and insertion wherever it is. So every time you click a muscle, it'll tell you where the origin and insertion is. And the only ones you're going to want to know where the origin and insertions are the ones that I highlight in bold. So the sternocleidomastoid one, that would be one of them, as are other ones that you'll see up ahead. But all the ones that are actually listed on the PowerPoint, you're going to want to know by memory, okay? And so those are the major muscles of the head and face. As I'm also going through this PowerPoint, please read the book, because the book will tell you how these muscles kind of group together, what the movement, how the movement happens, what they each do, and it helps you understand it and even memorize where it's at a lot better than just trying to look at the picture and memorize it. So this is page 176 and 177. The major muscles of the chest and abs are moving on to that. We're starting on page 178, 179, and yeah, 178 and 179. And we have your deltoid, pectoralis major, pectoralis minor, linea alba, rectus abdominis, externo oblique, internal oblique, and transverse abdominis. All of these you're going to want to know where they're at. The bold ones know where the origin and insertion are. Again, this is 178 and 179. Read those pages. Now we're on to the major muscles of the shoulder, back, and arms. Some of the major ones here are the trapezius. It's a gigantic one in your back. Latissimus dorsi, another gigantic one right below it on your back. Teres major, teres minor, rhomboid major, rhomboid minor, levator scapulae, triceps brachii, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, subscapularis, and biceps brachii. So those are the major muscles in your upper arms and back. Again, the bold ones know the origin and insertion. All the other ones know where they're at. So here are the major muscles of the forearms. And we have a lot of them. A lot of them kind of look confusing, but once you look at the Essential Anatomy app and play with it for a while, you'll get the hang of it. And so one big thing I wanted to mention about this is the flexors and the extensors. They're not all intertwined together. One of them, like all the flexors, are on the front side or anterior side, and all the extensors are on the back side or posterior side of your forearm. So it's pretty nice that the side that your hand is, like where you're making supination, if you're supinating your hands, making a bowl of soup with your hands, all of those muscles on that front side of your forearm are the flexors. If you're pouring the soup in the pronation side, all the muscles on the back side of your forearm are your extensors, okay? That only makes sense because if you're going to flex your fingers or your hand, you are using your flexors. If you're going to extend them, you're going to use your extensors. And your flexors would be on the front side of your forearm, and your extensors would be on the back side of your forearm. So knowing that can help you understand them a little bit. The flexors and extensors don't get all confused and messed up. And the rest of them, just look at it, look through the Essential Anatomy app and check it out. So here are the major muscles of the thighs and legs, and those ones you're going to want to find on page 185, 186, 187, and yeah, that's it. Oh, one thing I also forgot is the forearm muscles are going to be on page 182 and 183. Okay? Anyway, but going back to the major muscles of the Thighs and legs, you have your gluteus maximus, your gluteus medius, sartorius, iliacus, psoas major, adductor longus, gracilis, and adductor magnus. Those ones I listed right here are mainly the ones that are found in your hip. On the next slide, they're going to be more of the ones that are found throughout your legs. Okay, so more legs. These are the actual ones that you're going to want to know. And yes, there's a lot of bold muscles here because you're going to need to know these. These are very critical muscles for movement. So this is your hamstrings and your quadricep muscles. You have your tensa facet latae, biceps femoris, semitendinosus, semimembranosus, vastus lateralis, rectus femoris, vastus medialis, and sartorius. Look up all of these, find the origin insertions for all the ones that are listed in bold. Those are very important to know. So now we're on your lower legs. And as you can look around here, you start seeing a lot of extensors and flexors and all this crazy stuff, just like we saw on your forearms. But this one is completely different than your forearms because your forearms actually had the flexors on the anterior side or front, and your extensors on the posterior side or back of your forearms. This one's completely opposite, so flip it around in your mind. On your legs, your flexors are on the back and your extensors are on the front. And that makes sense because when you flex your calf, the muscles in the back of your foot are helping you flex those muscles and do a calf contraction or your gastrocnemius contraction. And to extend, like to point your toes to the sky, your muscles in the front of your leg are doing that. And so just try doing that. Try standing on your tippy toes or whatever. You'll notice that the back of the muscles are working really hard. And those are your flexors. And if you're going to want to extend your toes to the sky, those are your extensors. And you can start feeling the muscles in the front of your legs doing that type of thing. Again, look at the muscles that are highlighted in bold. Memorize those for their origin insertion. The rest of them, just know where they're at. That's it for now for my recording. Please study this a lot throughout the rest of this week and next week. And I hope this has been helpful to you guys. If you ever have any questions or concerns or anything you wanted to comment about, please let me know and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Awesome, guys. I will see you on Monday.